The last time my father's voice reached me, he told me we would talk later. Never did. I was the first child. After me came a girl, then a boy, then another boy, and finally, years later, the last girl arrived to close the chapter my parents had been writing since the day they married. 5 of us, raised in a small house that always felt bigger than it was because of the love inside it. My father was a mobile police officer. Mopol, everyone called him, with the kind of respect that made children straighten their backs when he walked past in uniform. My mother was a trader, up before the sun, home after it had gone down, her hands always smelling of the market. Between the two of them, I never once doubted that I was loved. I have never seen better parents in my life, and I say that not out of grief-softened memory, but because it was simply true while he was alive, and it remains true now that he is gone. My father talked, that was his gift. He talked to me about life the way other men talk about football, with passion, with repetition, with the quiet insistence of someone who believed that if he said a thing enough times, it would come true. He wanted a great life for all of us, not just comfortable, great. He used to say that a man who has seen suffering owes his children a debt, and that debt is paid in advice, in prayer, in showing up. I remember the year I got into university like I remember my own name. My father did not shout or throw a party immediately. He simply stood in the doorway of our house, looked at me for a long moment and said, "This one, we will celebrate properly." And we did. When I finished with good results, he made sure the whole family knew. My mother cooked more food than we could finish. My father invited people I didn't even know he was close to. It was one of those days you don't recognize as a memory while you're living it. You just think it's an ordinary happy day, and only later do you understand it was a gift. He used his name and his years of quiet relationships to help me get my first job at UDA Bank. I remember him sitting me down before my first day, telling me to be humble, to be early, to greet everyone regardless of their rank, because respect costs nothing and buys everything. I worked there for some time. It was a good job on paper. The kind of job people back home assumed meant I had arrived. But the pay did not match the hours, and it did not match the dreams I was quietly carrying. I complained to my father often, maybe too often. I would call him frustrated, tired, wondering out loud if I had made the wrong choice. He never told me to be quiet about it. He never dismissed how I felt. He would simply say, in that calm voice of his, "Don't give up. Everything will be fine." And then, almost every time, he would add that he and my mother were praying for me, that God would grant me a good job, a proper one that would let me breathe. I used to nod along on those calls, grateful but a little skeptical, the way young people are when their parents promise them that patience will pay off. I didn't know yet how literally those prayers would be answered, or what it would cost to receive the answer. Eventually, I made the decision to move out and start living on my own. My parents did not want me to leave. My mother especially fought it in her own quiet way, cooking my favorite meals more often that month, finding small reasons for me to stay a little longer each visit. My father was less vocal about his resistance, but I could see it in the way he lingered at the door when I packed. Still, I explained to them that I needed to leave my comfort zone, that growth doesn't happen in the same room you have always known. Eventually, they understood, or at least they let me go, which is its own kind of love, releasing someone you'd rather keep close because you know they need to fly. But my father did not let distance change anything. He became, without ever announcing it, the architect of my mornings. He was always the first person to call, sometimes before I had even opened my eyes properly, just to make sure I was preparing for work. He would call again once I got there, and again to ask if I had eaten. A question he asked with the seriousness of a man checking on a soldier before battle. In the evenings, if I was on my way home, he called. When I arrived, he called again. It became so constant that I stopped noticing it as remarkable. It was simply what having a father felt like. I did not know then that I was living inside the version of love I would spend the rest of my life missing. There was a running joke between us. I used to tell him, half serious, half dreaming, I wish I had a remote job, a high-paying one. And every single time, without fail, he would tell me he would pray for me, that God would grant me that exact job. Not just any job, that job. He said it so many times that it became a kind of ritual between us. A small prayer we performed together over the phone, across the distance I had put between us. Then came the day that started like nothing. My salary was paid earlier than expected that month, and I was pleasantly surprised. I called my father immediately, the way I called him about most things, big or small, because he was the person I wanted to tell first. We laughed about it together. That easy laughter that only exists between people who have known each other their whole lives. I sent some money to him and my mother, told them to get something nice for themselves. My father, ever the man of faith, told me to send a little something to the church as well, an offering of gratitude, and I did without hesitation, because that is what he taught me, that blessings should be passed forward, not hoarded. I told him I wanted him and my mother to come visit me the next day. He agreed. We talked a little longer, the way we always did, about nothing and everything. And then he said the words that have replayed in my mind every day since. "We'll talk later." I said, "Okay." I hung up the phone. I did not know it was the last sentence my father would ever say to me. 30 minutes later, my phone rang again. It was my mother. I picked up, expecting perhaps a follow-up to our earlier conversation, some small thing she wanted to add. Instead, I heard something I have no words strong enough to describe. My mother's voice breaking apart, shouting, crying, telling me to come home immediately, that my father had been rushed to the hospital. I do not remember standing up. I do not remember what I said back to her, if I said anything coherent at all. I remember the feeling of the floor tilting beneath me, the way the whole world seemed to lose its edges. I left immediately. Every second of that journey home felt like it belonged to someone else's nightmare, not my life. When I arrived, he was already back at the house. He was dead. My father had not been sick. There had been no warning, no illness creeping up on him that we could point to and say, "We saw this coming." He had gone to the office that very day, walked in the way he always did, done his work, and then, somewhere in the ordinary motion of that day, he had simply held his chest, unable to breathe, and was gone. Just like that. No goodbye beyond the one he had already given me. "We'll talk later." A promise that would never be kept in the way either of us understood it that night. I do not have adequate words for what that moment did to me. My life shattered in front of my eyes, quietly and completely, the way glass breaks when you're not even looking at it. You just hear the sound and then see the pieces. I cried until I had nothing left to cry with. My mother fainted from the shock and had to be revived. The woman who had built a life beside this man for decades, who had prayed with him over my future every single time I doubted myself, now had to somehow stand upright in a world that no longer had him in it. The next day, he was taken to the mortuary, and my family began the long, aching process of preparing for his burial. Extended family gathered the way they do in times like this, some offering real comfort, others simply presence, which is sometimes enough. In the middle of all of this, grief piled on top of grief. I lost my job. It felt at the time like the universe had decided to take everything from me at once, as though sorrow had opened a door and invited every other misfortune to walk through it behind it. But we were not left to carry it alone. With the help of God and with the help of good friends, one of whom had become like a brother to my father over the years, we were able to give him the burial he deserved. It was, without question, one of the saddest days of my life. My siblings and I stood together, my mother beside us, all of us wearing grief like a uniform we never asked to be issued. The police force he had served came to give him full honors, performing the rites, standing at attention for a man who had spent his life protecting others and had somehow still found the energy every single day to protect and pour into his own children. I remember watching the uniformed men salute his casket and thinking about how he used to stand at our door in that same uniform, waiting to see me off, calling out one last piece of advice before I left the house. The distance between that memory and this moment felt impossible to hold in one mind. And then, in the middle of the burial preparations, 2 weeks after I had lost my job, while I was still learning how to breathe through the grief, I received a phone call from a company I did not remember ever applying to. They wanted to interview me for a role. I almost didn't answer, my mind so far from anything resembling a career at that point. But something made me pick up. 2 days later, an offer letter arrived, a very good salary, a role I could do entirely from home. I sat with that letter for a long time before I understood what I was looking at. It was the job, the exact one. Remote, just as I had always joked about. But it was not just remote. The pay was 5 times what I had been earning before, a figure I had never even dared to say out loud, not even in my most hopeful daydreams. I read the offer again and again, and somewhere in the 3rd or 4th reading, the tears came, not out of sadness this time, but out of something I still struggle to name, recognition maybe, or grace. I thought of every phone call, every morning wake-up call, every "have you eaten?" every "don't give up, everything will be fine." I thought of the ritual we had built together over the years, me joking about a remote job, him promising to pray for it. I thought about how he had told me, just hours before he died, to send something to the church, as though some part of him already knew that gratitude needed to be sent ahead of us, like luggage to a destination we hadn't yet arrived at. And I understood, in a way I cannot fully explain to anyone who has not lived it, that my father had not stopped keeping his promise. He had simply moved the conversation somewhere I could no longer call him on the phone to have it. I believe, with everything in me, that my father became my guardian angel, that wherever he is, he has continued to speak to God on my behalf, making sure that my mother and my siblings never lack, never suffer, never go without the good things he spent his whole life praying over us. He was a great man, a devoted husband to my mother, who still speaks his name with the tenderness of someone who knows exactly what she lost and exactly what she was given while she had him. He was the best father I could have asked for, and I do not say that lightly, because I have had a lifetime to compare him to other men, other fathers, and none of them come close. I pray his soul continues to rest in perfect peace. And every time something good happens to me now, a blessing I didn't expect, an answer to a prayer I had almost stopped believing in, I still find myself wanting to pick up the phone and call him first, to tell him, to laugh with him about it, the way we always did. I just have to remember now that he already knows.
Thanks for watching. Like, comment, share, and subscribe.